The bay woke up buzzing with the kind of electricity that shakes the rails on Market Street, because the word spreading through Dub Nation is simple and seismic all at once. Jerami Grant to the Warriors, a move that feels like it was designed in a film room and willed into existence by a fan base that never stopped believing in big, bold basketball. The idea of Grant in blue and gold hits the senses like a bright splash of paint on a fresh canvas, a modern forward with the wingspan, mobility, and poise to tilt matchups, slide across positions, and turn Steph Curry's gravity into easy lanes, easy cuts, and clean looks from beyond the arc. You can already picture it at Chase Center, the lights low, the court gleaming, and Grant taking that first walk to the scorer's table while the crowd rises, the promise of a new version of Warriors basketball humming in the building like a pre-game bassline. This is about fit as much as it is about talent, because Grant lives in that sweet spot where length meets skill, where a forward can switch across assignments on one end and then jog straight into a dribble handoff, a flare screen, or a ghost slip on the other without breaking rhythm. Under Steve Kerr, the system breathes, flows, and punishes indecision, and Grant's game is tailor-made for that rhythm. A catch, a read, a quick step into the lane, or a kick-out that arrives on time and in the shooting pocket to a teammate already squared. At the heart of the excitement sits Steph, whose movement bends defenses into shapes they were never meant to hold, and the thought of Grant ghosting into space as defenders panic over a Curry relocation feels like a cheat code that the Bay is more than ready to run. Draymond Green will see the angles before anyone else, and his voice will choreograph the dance, pointing Grant into back cuts, dragging opposing bigs away from the rim, and creating those little cracks in the shell that a smart forward can pry open with patience and touch. Jonathan Kuminga stands to benefit in a way that makes this rumor feel like an ecosystem upgrade, because Grant's presence can free Kuminga to attack with simpler reads, cleaner lanes, and a partner who understands how to occupy the weak side gap so that slashes actually breathe. Andrew Wiggins becomes even more dangerous when he doesn't have to shoulder every wing assignment alone, and a lineup that lets Wiggins pick his moments while Grant takes the heat at the point of attack feels like a recipe for confidence to snowball in all the best ways. On defense, this is about optionality, about the Warriors regaining the ability to throw a blanket over a hot wing, to absorb a bruising forward, and to toggle between switching and scram help without giving up clean corner looks that swing tight nights. Grant's length at the nail is a coach's dream, because he can shade a drive, stunt at a ball handler, and still recover to a shooter without the scramble turning into a fire drill, the kind of subtle possession that wins in silence before the box score even blinks. There is a patience to his footwork on the block that matters when whistles tighten and possession slow, and the Warriors can use that calm, that veteran understanding that not every stop is a gamble, that sometimes the smart play is just chest, hands high, contest, rebound, outlet. Offensively, the split-cut universe gets a new planet, because a forward who can screen, slip, and pop with equal comfort turns a classic action into a choose-your-adventure story, and Steph loves nothing more than a defender forced to guess wrong twice in the same heartbeat. Picture the short roll where Grant catches at the free throw line, eyes up, defenders torn between tagging the cutter or jumping the floater, and he just lofts a soft push shot that kisses the glass as if the rim itself had whispered yes. Now picture the wing isolation that isn't really an isolation, a deliberate, measured attack into a mid-post touch with shooters spaced and cutters twitching, and the defense has to pick its poison while the clock bleeds and the possession bends toward a clean look. In transition, this gets loud, because the Warriors still run on energy and angles, and a forward who can grab and go without panic is a dangerous machine, especially when the trailer is Steph and the rim runner is a leaper who forces the weak side to collapse in fear. Grant can be the calm in the second-unit storms that sometimes cost nights, a steady creator who keeps the ball alive, refuses bad shots on the early clock, and manufactures something simple when the set frays but the scoreboard insists that the possession still matters. There's a culture element here too, because the Warriors are built on joy, connection, and accountability, and Grant's reputation as a pro's pro folds neatly into a locker room where the standard is clear, the roles are honest, and the work speaks louder than the talk. Chase Center will feel different the first time he bodies a star at the elbow, slides with the first move, absorbs the second, and still gets a fingertip on the release, the kind of defensive play that tells an opponent the night will be long and unforgiving. On the other end, the first corner splash will bring the roof down, not just for the points, but for the idea, the confirmation that the shot profile just got cleaner, that Steph's gravity is being cashed out in a way that punishes every help step with interest. Rotation-wise, Kerr gets to color with more shades again, not just big or small, but strong or fast, length or pace, a palette that lets him answer whatever riddle the West throws without abandoning the principles that made this franchise a reference point for modern hoops. Imagine a closing group that can switch, rebound, and still run a dance of handoffs and pin-ins on the final trip, a five that speaks the same language under pressure and trusts each read in real time while the crowd surges like a living tide. Grant's presence also reignites the joy of the give and go, a simple cut sharpened by timing, a backdoor opened by a decoy screen, and the understanding that in Warriorland the beautiful play is usually the right play because the spacing turns good decisions into great ones. There will be nights where the mid-range becomes a refuge rather than a sin, and Grant's pull-up has the balance and arc to remind everyone that efficient offense is about shot quality, not location dogma, especially when the defense has sold its soul to the arc. The West is a gauntlet of proud wings and bruising forwards, and Grant's versatility lets the Warriors survive the parade of different archetypes without rewriting the game plan every other trip, the kind of continuity that saves legs in spring. Steph will find new pockets of space because a rangy forward who can punish switches is a deterrent, and defenses will think twice about chasing the ball to the sideline if the release valve now dribbles, passes, and finishes with grown man poise. Draymond will love the chatter, the echo of a teammate who calls out screens, names matchups, and snaps the backline into shape before the action even unfolds, the orchestra conducting itself while the drumline pounds out stops. Kuminga gets a mentor in the art of balance, how to shift from attacker to connector without losing aggression, how to measure a drive so that the last dribble is a launch pad, not a bailout that invites a strip and a long sigh from the bench. Wiggins gains a wing partner who thrives in the gaps, and the two of them together can smear the paint with length, turning the lane into a maze for drivers who suddenly meet chest and arms wherever they look. Brandon Podziemski will feast on the simple kickouts that come from a forward who reads help early, and the ball will hop from side to side until it finds a corner that feels like home again, an old Warriors habit made new by a fresh set of hands. There's a heartbeat to this rumor that feels right, a basketball logic that defies hot-take culture and lives in the film, the footwork, the pattern recognition that separates a shiny move from a real one. Grant has logged wars against elite scorers and lived to tell the story without turning the job into a personal crusade, and that matters in a system built on trust, because the next action is always more important than the last play's heroics. You can feel the Bay lean forward at the thought of a lineup where every player can pass, dribble, and shoot to a competent degree, because that's when Warriors basketball stops looking like sets and starts feeling like jazz. It is easy to picture the first practice, Kerr smiling while the ball never seems to touch the floor for more than a beat, the staff trading grins as spacing solves problems before a whiteboard even gets a marker uncapped. This move whispers legacy as well as urgency, a reminder that the window remains open as long as Steph's feet dance and his eyes see possibilities that others miss, and that the right forward can turn small margins into safe leads. Grant's frame offers the kind of rebounding that ends possessions with finality, a secure clamp on a miss that becomes an instant runway for a guard flying up the sideline with the ball already pushed ahead. There will be game plans that begin with Grant on the best forward in the building, not to erase, but to bother, to nudge just enough, to make every touch labor and every pivot feel a little crowded. On offense, he can serve as a pressure valve when a set stalls, someone who can take a dribble into space, rise into a calm jumper, and remind everyone that the scoreboard respects composure as much as artistry. The Bay loves a forward who competes like a guard and thinks like a big, and that dual nature is written all over Grant's tape, a blend of agility and craft that collapses old positional boxes into modern utility. You can almost hear the rallying cry echoing across the water, a promise that this iteration of the Warriors will not be defined by what it used to be, but by what it is willing to become with the right piece placed in the right slot. There is a quiet confidence in how this could elevate the second unit's floor, because a steady wing who can self-create in late clock keeps shaky stretches from becoming avalanches, and that is how good teams protect home nights and road legs. Grant's corner gravity pulls a defender out of the paint on the weak side, stretching that last help step until the drive lane opens for a layup that looks simple only because the geometry has been mastered. Draymond's short roll wizardry gains a partner who can mirror the reads from a different angle, and the composite effect could be a return to those possessions that feel inevitable from the first screen to the final net snap. There's a joy in picturing Steph's laugh after a new action clicks, that grin he flashes when a teammate meets him at his level of mischief, the two of them sharing a nod after a defender chases a ghost and pays for it with a swish. The Bay craves defense that travels, and Grant packs that in his bag, a road-ready temperament that does not need the home crowd to track back, wall up, and make the star across from him think through mud. It is tempting to dwell on shot charts and efficiency maps, but the soul of this fit lives in the little things, the screen angle that frees a shoulder, the cut that clears the dunker spot, the skip pass thrown a beat early to beat the low tag. Grant's stride eats space in transition without a hint of panic, and that calm stride turns into sudden lift when a defender stumbles, the kind of subtle change of pace that makes highlights feel uneventful until the crowd explodes. In late-game situations, the Warriors have always hunted quality over hero ball, and a forward who can keep the ball moving without fear or hesitation is exactly the kind of closer that championship teams trust. There will be teaching moments, and this staff excels at them, quick clips on tablets, pre-practice touch-ups, side conversations that stick, tiny notes that turn a good possession into an automatic bucket by the next week. Grant's connection game should shine with cutters like Gary Payton flying baseline and bigs like Tracy Jackson-Davis lurking for drop-offs, because a forward with a live dribble and patient eyes turns the paint into a workshop. The crowd will adore the possessions where he defends a guard on a switch, forces a pass, bumps down to box out a bruiser, and still gets a fingertip deflection on the kickout, a full possession clinic wrapped in a single shot clock. Offensively, the whispers of a pick and pop become a shout when paired with Steph, because the defender must decide between the best shooter alive and a clean look for a forward who has earned the right to fire from rhythm. There is also the quiet menace of the mid-post procession, where Grant can face up, jab, and either rise or thread a bounce to a cutter slicing behind his defender's shoulder, the kind of possession that breaks a defense's spirit without breaking a sweat. When the Warriors talk about joy, this is what they mean: a shared language of movement and trust that makes the ball sing while opponents wonder why their best efforts keep arriving one pass late. Grant's arrival signals ambition without panic, a bet on a skill set that ages with intelligence and effort, not a roll of dice on vibes, but an investment in basketball truth. It also signals a message to the West that the Warriors are not here to be nostalgic, they are here to compete with a plan, to respect their core by surrounding it with pieces that make sense in April and May. The synergy with Steph will not be forced, because both players read, react, and prefer the smart option to the loud one, the kind of collective ego that bends toward winning without needing a headline. There is an echo of an older blueprint here, memories of rangy forwards who embraced the dirty work while cashing in on spacing, and that echoes loudly in a building that still believes in pace, space, and purpose. The Warriors' training staff will relish another big wing to mold through the rigors of a long calendar, periodizing rest, sharpening movement patterns, and preserving legs for the weeks when the lights feel brighter and the whistles feel colder. Grant's quiet leadership will matter, the day-to-day professionalism that rubs off in the weight room and in the film sessions, the nod across the locker room that says stay with it when a young player's minutes wobble. On the floor, he will set the tone with early contests and clean boxes, because that first-quarter seriousness has always been a Warriors' tell for how the night will go when it's time to finish. In second halves, he will matter most in the stretches between the spectacular, the glue moments when a team can either lose the thread or pull it tighter, and the smartest forwards are needle and stitch all in one. You can hear the beat building outside the arena already, the drums, the chants, the hum of a city that has fallen in love with a style and is ready to see it refreshed, not replaced. Grant gives the Warriors permission to be mean again on defense without sacrificing the beauty on offense, a blend that has always been the secret behind the sparkle. He brings a steadiness that amplifies Steph's chaos, a contrast that makes it all more effective, like a drummer behind a virtuoso soloist who knows exactly when to punch and when to ride. The Warriors will not run fewer actions because of him, they will run better ones, cleaner angles, crisper exits, and more purposeful slips, the marks of a veteran who knows how to help a set breathe. Fans will notice the micro skills that separate him, the quiet one-handed catches in traffic, the inside-hand finishes in tight spaces, the ability to change release points when a contest arrives late. Coaches will notice the discipline, the screen resets, the second efforts on seals, the patience on kickouts, all the unglamorous touches that make the difference between pretty ball and winning ball. Teammates will notice the trust, the way he claps for a rookie's miss and still throws the next pass to the same spot, because the belief matters before the results do. Opponents will notice the workload, the way he leans on a scorer all night, then makes them guard on the other end, and over time that two-way tax shows up in fourth-quarter legs. Broadcasters will notice the possession-by-possession impact, how a lineup with him solves mismatches without frantic subs, staying in rhythm while the scoreboard stays calm. Kids in the stands will notice the way he moves without the ball, and they will take that memory to playgrounds where the lesson becomes a habit that outlasts trends. Grant's resume might be the headline, but his toolbox is the story, and the Warriors are the kind of team that knows how to use every tool in the shed. If this rumor turns real, the Bay will celebrate the arrival not just of a name, but of a fit, a basketball idea that honors what this franchise is about when it is at its best. It will be a promise to Steph that the organization remains committed to making his genius matter in the moments that count, with teammates who can think the game at speed. It will be a promise to the fans that the standard still lives, that the pursuit of winning basketball is alive not in banners alone, but in the daily construction of a roster designed to sing. It will be a promise to the locker room that the front office sees what they see, that the gaps they feel on long road swings are being filled with real solutions, not wishful thinking. It will be a promise to the league that Warriors basketball remains a living language, one that can welcome a new voice without losing the melody that made it famous. The first home game with Grant in the lineup would feel like a reunion and a fresh start all at once, the crowd greeting a new partner for the old song with a roar that shakes the rafters. The first road win defined by his defense would feel like a quiet anthem, the grin on the bench telling you that something durable has been added to the mix. The first playoff series where his minutes shade an opposing star into frustration would feel like familiar dominance returning with a new coat of paint, the old grin wearing a new edge. All of this is why Dub Nation is pacing sidewalks and refreshing feeds, not for drama, but for the confirmation of a fit that feels inevitable in the best way. Because the Warriors are at their most dangerous when form meets function, when talent serves system, and when a forward like Jerami Grant can walk into the Bay and make basketball look easy again. And when basketball looks easy in blue and gold, it is usually because the hard work has already been done, the reads learned, the trust built, and the right piece placed gently into the right space. So here we are, a city ready to embrace a forward who understands both ends, a locker room prepared to fold another voice into the chorus, and a fan base eager to feel the floor vibrate again under a brand of basketball that makes hearts race and minds nod. If this becomes more than a rumor, it will not just be a transaction, it will be a statement, a declaration that the Warriors intend to write a new chapter with respect for the past and eyes fixed on the only horizon that has ever mattered in this era. Until then, the imagination runs wild, the film keeps playing in our heads, and Dub Nation holds its breath, already hearing the swish, already seeing the stops, already feeling that old familiar truth rise again from the Bay, strength in numbers, beauty in movement, and winning in the details. Before we dive into the next update, help us keep the Warriors' spirit alive by subscribing to the channel and smashing that like button. Stay connected with all the latest Golden State Warriors news. Now, let's get into it.